Hey everybody, and welcome back to Laravel Podcast Season 7. I'm your host, Matt Stauffer, CEO of Titan, and in this season I'm joined every episode by a member of the Laravel team. Today I'm joined by Hank Taylor, Head of Marketing at Laravel. Hank, would you say hi to everybody and tell us a little bit about what do you do at Laravel?
Hello. So, I do a few things here. I help run a few teams. So, DevRel, marketing, revenue operations, support, and also helping establish our sales motion. For more of the enterprise stuff. So
I'm already learning things. We're literally like 5 seconds in the podcast. I guess I knew that you did DevRel. I didn't know you did RevOps. And I don't know, I just got a lot on your plate.
Yep.
I mean, they are all marketing related, but still, that's a lot. So
I like all the go-to-market stuff.
Okay,
which, by the way, is a term that Taylor didn't even know. He'd never heard the term go-to-market until I'd used it a few times.
He's finally...
And he even told me, he messaged Adam Watham. He's like, do you know what GTM, go-to-market
so
is?
let's say that listeners don't know. Can you give the description you would have given to him at that point?
Go-to-market, it's the broader term for it's for someone like me where, okay, I'm doing a little more than marketing and a little more than my title would lead you to believe at first glance. You need a broader term for all the things you're doing that are kind of customer facing. So how do you actually take your products out to market?
Yeah.
Go to market.
Would you consider, because I think you said customer support. Would you consider customer support as part of GTM? Or is that a separate aspect?
That's one of the ones that, sometimes it's part of GTM. When companies get bigger, you might have support roll up into a CRO for a bit, or you might get a chief customer officer, that will own that and separate or whatever. But yeah, I would consider it go to market in many ways, especially if they're owning renewals. Like once you get into enterprise customer
if there's
support,
any money related in there, then
once you have a team that's doing quarterly reviews with the bigger customers and the renewals and that sort of stuff, they have to be very tightly woven with the go-to-market teams, and part of the go-to-market teams, they have to know what's coming down the pipe from sales, that they're going to be doing onboarding, and their capacity is directly tied to sales and marketing capacities.
Okay, that's helpful. I mean, I was first just open to the idea because when I took over as CEO at Titan, I was like, I guess I've always been tangentially related to marketing because I did the podcast and I spoke on conferences and stuff like that, but I wasn't really super involved in sales. I was just like, I show up to a sales meeting when somebody tells me to. So even just the idea that sales versus sales and marketing, and there's just those very rudimentary delineations between those, I was like, there's a whole world here that I don't know anything about. And I know that some people listen to the podcast, they're like, I'm talking about C-suite delineations for, early stage startups every day. But there's a lot of people that are like, I don't know, I just show up and code every day. So thank you for explaining a little bit. So one of the things that I ask for everybody when they first kind of come on the podcast is for us to hear the story of what were you doing before you joined Laravel, and then what was the story of you joining Laravel? Because it seems like everybody has like a little bit of a different story of what their process is like. So where were you before? Where did you come from, and what brought you here?
Okay, maybe I'll go back a bit further than people normally go.
As far as you want.
Back to 2007.
We've gone the whole way back to somebody learning how to code in high school, so you're safe. You can do whatever you want.
Well, so the path to me getting at Laravel, or even in this world of I'm a non-technical person at a technical company, started because MySQL had an office in Boise, Idaho, where I grew up and where I moved back to here. Yeah, they had like a satellite sales and marketing office. And my brother was one of their very first marketing managers. This was this is before Sun acquired them, which was later acquired by Oracle. And so I was his intern fresh out of high school. I needed a summer job. I didn't want to do construction. I knew that my future was in an office. So I was like, I might as well get started now. And back then, boy, let me tell you, marketing, now I'm taking you on a tangent. I told you I'm a yapper sometimes.
Do it. Yeah, please.
Back then, marketing in open source was a totally different game. Like no one had done it. And MySQL was the first $1 billion open source acquisition. That and JFrog. And they just beat JFrog. Like the JFrog guys still talk about it. I'm friends with one of them. But back then, my job as an intern was I would scroll to the bottom of the fastest growing sites of the week. You could get a list from Alexa, which is now dead. But I would scroll to the bottom of the 500 sites. I was squeamish. I wouldn't check the porn sites because I was too squeamish for that. And there would be someone called a webmaster, and they would put their phone number and their email.
Oh, really? Wow. Okay.
So I would just copy those onto a sheet. Sales guy would call them and say, "Hey, you're one of the fastest growing sites. You're probably on MySQL because 90% of the internet at the time was." And they go, "Yeah." Like, great. You want to buy support, or do you want to be on the line if everything blows up? And that was it.
That's brilliant marketing, actually. I love that.
Yeah. Credit to my brother and his boss. And so later on MySQL's like second acquisition, when Sun got, I don't have to go all into it, but basically my brother ended up in the Bay Area. I followed him to an open source BI company. And then my greatest hits have all been these open source community driven companies. So Neo4j, that's a niche database. Not too many people know it, but a lot of people listening will. I was, employee number 50 there. I was like number 30 at GitLab, and I built up the SDR team, the digital marketing, did a couple things. They gave me more responsibility than they should have. And I was really proud of the work I did there, just for a short year. And then skip ahead a bit to Vercel. I was the first marketer there. I owned similar teams. I had DevRel, RevOps, and marketing, and helped build out the sales team there. And that one was like the really big ride because I was in an executive position, hyper growth during ZERP. It was crazy. And then I went to some company and quickly left because I was able to go full-time advising. And so I was full-time advising focused on dev tools. And so over the year and a half between Vercel and Laravel, I was advising just tons of dev tools, which really even accelerated my learning even more, even though I thought I knew a lot after Vercel. But one of those was Laravel. So when Excel started the process of investing, they were on the board at Vercel. So one of their board members is a friend of our board, and obviously, they're all part of the same investment firm at Excel. And they told Taylor and Tom, our president and COO, "Hey, check out this Hank guy, see if you can get him to join." I said, "There's no way I'm joining. Like that, I've had enough full-time rides." But then Tom and Taylor, like they're different people to work
together.
And so after a few, no, I just mean everyone who's listening to this knows that like Taylor is a different type of CEO and a different type of founder, like everything. He's a weirdo in all the ways that we love.
Yeah.
He's this interesting enigma of like, he's strangely humble, but he drives a Lamborghini, right? Like, right?
We love that. Yeah.
And we do love it. And I was like, okay, I could work for this guy. And so he and Tom, mainly Tom, talked me into it. And I started full time at last year's Laracon. And
wow.
And that was the path in. So when I was a part-time advisor, most of what I helped with was a little bit of thinking about positioning of Laravel Cloud, also with thinking about the positioning of the announcement of funding, because obviously with an open source community, getting VC backed, like that's a big deal.
People have
so
opinions.
I thought a lot about, okay, how do we talk about that? When do we announce it? Etc. And then, I helped put together like a little exploratory enterprise side event at Laracon so that we could see, hey, we just showed the demo on stage yesterday of this cloud thing. Oh, actually, we did it the same night. So it was like Taylor was just on stage showing this thing that we didn't even tell you guys why we were having this dinner. Yeah. Now we're at the dinner. What do you think? Are any of you interested? And we figured out, these companies, we're years away. These companies, they could adopt as soon as we're ready. And
Yeah.
so figuring out that enterprise piece. So that's what I did. And then you already heard all the stuff I'm doing now, building out DevRel, marketing, RevOps, support, sales, etc.
Yeah. So this is not a usual question that I ask everybody, but I am very, very curious. How do you break down your time and your responsibilities on a week-to-week basis?
It really, it's not consistent how I break down my time and my priorities, but the first thing I center on is the products, of course.
Yeah.
So,
like it's making money.
Yeah. So when does this podcast come out?
June 6th.
Okay. Nightwatch won't be launched by then, but that's the next launch. So that's
teaser.
That's everything I think about. So everything kind of works back from then, and constantly, nagging the product teams of like, is that on track? Like, are you actually doing it on that date? Do I have time to squeeze in other work before? Or, what kind of accordion am I working with? Yeah. I literally teach, like I talk to my team about Parkinson's law. That's one of those.
Can you remind me which that is?
One of those like laws of the internet where work will expand to the time left to do the work.
Oh, God, it's so true.
So I talk about how we have to fight Parkinson's law. So actually the marketing sites for Nightwatch are actually done early, which is like a first ever.
Yeah. Not until the night before at
so
2 a.m.
Props to Leah and Chris and David and Tilly on design.
Nice.
That's pretty incredible. So first thing I center on is, well, what are the product launches? I've already mapped out, okay, there's Laracon, that's like a big tier 1 type of thing. With that, we have a really interesting update for Forge that Taylor and now James Brooks have teased. Oh boy, people are gonna love that. And then there's gonna be there'll be like the demo at Laracon of that thing, and then the actual release. I've kind of got an idea of when that's gonna be, in the following quarters. So those are the first big chunks, and then I organize. Who does all the main work for those different things, and how much time do they need from me to get their work done, to be unblocked, to move forward? And that trickles all the way down to like, the little things that I play with here and there of like, oh, maybe I can send out, a tweet this week or write a blog post myself or like, hey, co-work with somebody. I really like, I don't pair program with my team, but I do like get on Zooms or huddles and co-work with people and all that stuff. So I don't know how well that answers your question, but that's
great. Yeah.
The broad strokes.
Well, how are you as a delegator? Do you find it natural? Is it something you have to work really hard at?
I've had to work hard at that because I really like doing a lot of the type of work, right? Yeah. I have an interest in all sorts of stuff, but I'm probably better at it than at Laravel than I've ever been.
Okay.
Part of that's because at Vercel, when I was person number 30, I begged for a headcount in my first couple months. I was like, hey, like the amount of stuff and traction we've got here, man, give me an employee and like we could do some damage. And I didn't get it. Like Vercel didn't even, lots of people think of Vercel as this big rich company, but when I joined, they didn't even buy me a monitor. We were poor.
What?
And I asked, I was like, hey, can I get a monitor? God. And they were like, we're pretty sure you have a monitor that works. You don't need a new one. Like, you're going to be fine. I'm like, dang, when did I join? That was April 2020. So I joined right at the start of COVID. Nobody knew what was going to happen.
Yeah.
So for my first several months, I had to do everything myself. And then I got in this hole that took a year and a half to recover from once I started building a team of, there are too many things that only I know about that I built. Because I'm an automator. I'm not a programmer, but I know how to use tools to the max. Yeah. And so I've built out a lot of stuff. And that takes a while. So here I resist a lot of urges to build stuff, and instead I try and go work with someone on my team.
Yes.
And really one thing that keeps me honest about this is this little phrase I have in my head, which is teaching is the essence of leadership. So I know, okay, if I'm going to be a good leader, instead of just going and doing a thing, I should actually be teaching someone how to do it and get them rolling with it.
Okay. Yeah. So let's talk about some of your specific projects. So I know that there's a lot of different pieces of your job that are outside of marketing, but I really do want to focus on the marketing aspects for today. And one of the things that's most interesting for me is marketing as it relates to open source. And you talked about how you like, hey, I've been marketing with, I'm sorry, it's MySQL for me. I'm supposed to say SQL, but MySQL, marketing of MySQL.
If you worked there, they say MySQL.
Yeah, I believe you 100%. It's one of these,
but it's MySQL. I know,
but it's MySQL, right? So
I know,
marketing for MySQL, and you've done this. So like, I know that at Laravel, your job isn't necessarily to market Laravel the project, right? You're doing things, but I don't think it's not to do that either. You're talking about Laracon, which is as much a community event. It's more community than it is. So like, what's it like doing marketing for something that inherently doesn't actually like have a conversion? Like, you're not going to say like, oh, we're going to market Laracon. Now, granted, somebody signing up is cool, but like the end result is not, oh, we have a measurable new member of the Laravel community who's invested that you can check off a thing, right? Because so many things with marketing are like, how many sales did you make? What was your revenue and stuff like that? And while you are the RevOps guy, you're doing marketing in all these places that don't have direct dollars tied to it. Can you talk a little bit about what is different doing it that way than like a more traditional marketing job is?
Yeah. I love the size of company that Laravel's at right now because, one, I get to be the person, and I've been this person several times at several companies now. I get to be the person who introduces a lot of metric and data thinking.
Right.
But also vibes are, that's such an important part of marketing.
Yeah.
And so on that question, the same way that I think about, okay, here's like these are the main things happening that we're going to be super public about: tier 1 launches, announcements, events, Laracon, Nightwatch, Laravel Cloud.
Yeah.
There are also occasionally tier 1 framework updates.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have any right now. Sometimes like high tier features happen, and those can sneak by at a company like this, where when Taylor's been operating this way for over a decade, and he can get a PR on a Thursday. This happened a few weeks ago, or maybe a couple months. I'm hazy, but like he got like a PR on a Thursday. Was like, oh, this is good. He and Joe cranked on it for a few days, and then like Wednesday, it was this cool thing.
Yeah,
and I was like, hey Taylor, like, let me in on those. Like, I want to help me help you. I want to.
Right.
Well, that thing just came and then it was out, and I knew you were working on this thing or whatever. It's like, yeah, that's pretty fair. So sometimes, with open source stuff, it's so fast, and especially at a company. And I've told my team to be very careful about, like, hey, this company has operated successfully without us for a decade. Like, there is no reason for us to insert ourselves in ways that slow down or break stuff. Like that is something I've seen many marketers do.
Yeah.
Is they come in, they try to insert process where something's been working. So I'm very much hey, if it's not broken, like, don't fix it. And there's so many other things we need to fix, Like,
yeah.
Taylor's been begging me to like update the blog forever. Our blog design is outdated. We'll get there.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going on a super roundabout answer, but we do have seasons where we will focus more on framework and open source. And we do that in different ways. So one thing we've been doing, and it's not like big on Twitter or through email type of stuff, for the first time ever, we've been sponsoring meetups. And
love it.
my one of the people on my marketing team, we went together to Laracon, Australia, and we learned, wait, there's a Laravel meetup already active in like the 5 major cities of Australia. And we didn't know about these. And they're just like, we're like, how many are there? And we start digging around. We're like, there's at least 50 active Laravel meetups meeting quarterly. There might be 100. There might be 200. And so we've been doing the slow and steady work of like cataloging these. And I had a moment to get on stage at Laracon EU, and I just said, hey, I've made a box, like a swag box. And if you're a meetup host, you get this box, but you gotta basically register with me because I don't know who you are, where you are, what you're doing.
Yep.
And so like this is an effort that's growing, and we're gonna launch a meetups finder site.
Oh, thank God. I've been talking about this for years, and I'm like, why don't we have this? Oh, that's great.
Yeah, because right now it's like, well, do I go to meetups.com? Is it on Eventbrite? Is it on Luma? And
is it called Laravel? Is it called PHP, but we really know it's Laravel? Like, there's so many different options.
And so what we're saying right now is if you're a PHPX meetup, there's kind of that brand. And then if you're a Laravel meetup, if you consider yourself that, we're already telling you, register with us. So this is your call. If you're hosting meetups, if you're part of a meetup and you want swag for your meetup, we'll at least send you stickers, and we'll probably pay for food in most countries in the world. We've got a whole form. I think you can go to laravel.com/meetups. I should verify that, and we should edit that if it's not true. Sorry.
Okay. I'm typing the same thing.
Giving your editor a little
Oh, it's there.
Here.
100%.
There you go. If you go to laravel.com/meetups, there is a form for this. Basically, you register your meetup. We'll send you a box with a few t-shirts or hats or something to give away, and a bunch of stickers for everybody. And we'll reimburse you for some food.
Love this.
And that's like, and we're going to make this a proper site where the host can still get this stuff, and you can become a host or say, I've been hosting this for years already. And we're just going to make it easy to find these things because there's so many people who would go to meetups. Meetups are back, and I used to love going to meetups. Both like as a marketer, like at Neo4j, we had a super robust meetup system, and it was just great to like, that's a great way to just go interact with people. Yeah. But then also as a marketer, I used to go to a bunch of marketing meetups, and it's fun. So I think meetups are back. People want to meet in person.
Agreed.
So like that's one way we can just start to amplify things. This year we are focused entirely on Laravel events, Laravel Lives, the Laracons, and Laravel meetups, and these PHPX meetups. Yeah. Next year we'll probably be expanding to other PHP events. And thinking of how to sponsor those, how to get it more involved. I love that. Like, we can have, I've got 2 field marketers now who I can send us stuff.
Nice.
And then, in the years to follow, we'll continue to widen the circle as Laravel grows. But that's, nice. Very long answer to, how are we thinking about framework marketing? Like, that's one way. And that's one way to build community, is to actually support it. We got all this VC money. This is what it's for. Do something with it, right? And there's not a direct ROI, but when I put this line item on the budget of basically stickers and food for meetups, like I think that's literally what it says. And I just dragged that out on a sheet with like a little growth rate. And I talked to Tom about it, and I was like, "You're gonna be cool with this, right? Because like the bill's gonna keep going, and I want to spend money on these people. Like they're traveling to meet and talk about us and their jobs and whatever." And yeah, easy thumbs up.
Great. I love that.
I'd rather do that than ads, right? Like,
yeah. I am going to
do ads at some point, but yeah.
Well, and that kind of leads me to like another question that I didn't prepare you for, so apologies. But one of the things I was curious about is I spent a lot of time trying to convince people who don't currently use PHP or Laravel that it is something you should be thinking about. And it's in two primary settings. One of them being we have a potential client or somebody else's potential client, and I want to be like telling the story very consistently of Laravel and modern PHP are legitimate places for you to build the foundation of your future on. And then the other one is to newcomers, to learners, saying this is a good technology for you to learn. There are jobs here. Are either of those things that you feel are either currently or in the future a part of your responsibility set doing marketing at Laravel?
I do. I wasn't prepared for this, but I do have this hat. $PHP.
Yeah.
So the reason I made this hat, I'm going to talk about my big brother again.
Love it.
Because he went on one of his big successes after MySQL was Xamarin, which was Nat Friedman's company before Nat Friedman's company got acquired by Microsoft, and he became CEO of GitHub.
Okay.
Nobody knows that Nat Friedman did Xamarin first. Xamarin was a company that did. Here's why it's relevant. And you'll see, like, I'm a study of, like, I like to study this, like, dev tool space. And this is what me and my brother we talk shop about this stuff all the time. And when I told him, hey, I've been advising this PHP company, and actually, I think PHP, not only is it back, it was never gone, brother. Like, we talked about this. And I was like, yeah, because I come from, like, I was out there. I will take a little bit of credit for making Next.js the dominant React framework. Yeah. Different stories for a different day. Not the right audience. But, you know, I'd heard for years PHP is dead, but I'd also heard rumors of PHP Lambos. And so then I come in, I start advising this company. I'm like, oh, this is about to have a renaissance. And I talked to my brother about this because Xamarin, where he was head of marketing for Nat Friedman, they were a C#. Like you used C# to write mobile applications.
Okay.
And C#, similarly, like, not the cool language. And so one of the things they did was they just were like, we need to make at least people who use C#, they should at least know that they can be proud of being C#. Like, they shouldn't be ashamed of it.
Okay.
And so that was my first thought with, like, that silly hat, the $PHP. So I was like, hey, you know, we make a reference to the PHP money. It's got the, like, variable on there. I'm very proud of that as a non-technical person.
It's very clever.
And I was like, let's just... So you'll see a lot of efforts from our team over the next couple of years to just help people be proud of using PHP and understand that, hey, there are going to be haters out there, and they have less to say than ever, less valid to say than ever.
Yeah.
And it goes into, there are secret projects I can't even talk about right now, but there are efforts being made that will make PHP more relevant than ever, including in the world of AI code gen. I'll say that much.
Oof, that's spicy. I love this.
That is, that could get a little spicy, but it won't be anything that's spicy to our community. Our community has an interesting relationship with AI, I think, but
yeah,
I don't think anyone who just heard me say that and is maybe afraid, I don't think they would be if I were able to go into it.
I believe that. I'm not concerned. Honestly, I spend probably as much time as anybody in the community talking to business owners using or considering Laravel. And the number of times I've been asked over the last couple of months, just does it work with AI? Like, they don't even know what that means. They don't know if they means AI from a code gen perspective, from a IDE perspective, from a integrating with APIs. They just know that if I'm talking about technology and I can't say yes to does it work with AI, like they don't want anything to do with it. So for me, from a perspective of what moves the ecosystem forward, we don't want to be at the trailing edge of things. And everyone knows I'm not an AI maximalist, right? Like, I've been like very careful and very cautious, but we're going to use a useful tool when it's a useful tool at the same time, right? So I'm here for it. I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm very interested, and I appreciate you sharing that story without me prepping you about the PHP hat, because I have a long and storied relationship with the PHP, as does Taylor, as does Laravel, and a lot of it has been hopeful at the beginning and frustrated, in recent years, and trying again recently to just say, like, doesn't matter what's happened with PHP community, whatever. PHP is the language you're using in a day-to-day, and there's so much good there, and we're not able to tell the story of Laravel without telling the story of PHP. We're not able to defend Laravel or be proponents of Laravel without being proponents of PHP, right? So it's got to be there. And when I saw you make that hat, I first saw it at that enterprise dinner, and I did not know that this was your motivation behind it. And my first two responses were, oh my God, why would they put PHP in a freaking hat? We're trying to distance ourselves from PHP. And then immediately, oh my God, I love that we are choosing to embrace, because I'm like, I do write PHP every day, so why am I walking away from it? And so I was like, yes, let's embrace, like, yeah, I got a freaking PHP hat. I'm a nerd. Okay. Like, yes, this is who I am. So knowing that you are aware of that dynamic and it was intentional, it just makes me extremely grateful for your thoughtfulness there.
What I've found very quickly with this community is the Laravel community is incredibly pragmatic. Mm-hmm. And part of that comes with the age of the community. This is a decade-old community. It's older than almost any React community, right? Yeah. Y'all have seen some things come and go.
That is the truth.
And for better or for worse in some cases. And some of the things that are shunned or that we're shy about, I think there are ways to embrace and embolden around it. And I think, that's part of the thought behind the hat and many other things that, I've been pushing and you'll see pushing out through the company. But yeah, we're in an interesting renaissance for Laravel, and that means there must needs be a renaissance for PHP.
I love it. I'm excited about it. And I'm currently working on a why use PHP kind of pitch. So I'm here with you, but it took some time. So I appreciate your kind of contribution to this kind of movement in our community. So. All right, well, we can obviously talk about each of our individual topics for like half an hour, but I got to keep this moving. So the next big question I wanted to talk to you about was the experience of marketing at Laravel prior towards Excel investment, primarily having been Taylor saying, do this thing. Now, Taylor is not a marketing dummy. He knows how to, build a hype about a thing. He knows how to bring in, good naming and great documentation. He built the community of Laravel very intentionally. So this man understands the things, but it was one man, and the marketing for most of the tools was limited to him dropping hype about it ahead of time, giving a really compelling announcement and telling people about it, and then just continuing to tweet about it every once in a while. And it was effective, and it drove the growth of those products for a long time. But that's not exactly how a full marketing agency, setup does things. So what was it like to transition from the old world of Taylor's kind of primarily single man marketing world to trying to build a team around marketing those same products and also the new products?
I mean, we're still in that transition. It's going to take us a while. Taylor is still the most powerful channel we have, to use a marketing term.
I believe it.
We are, Taylor has more followers than we have email subscribers, which is... that's backwards for every VC-backed company in the world. So we have a lot of work to do. Part of that's because this company didn't send emails, and there's good and bad to that. One, there are no bad habits to break. I'm always breaking companies of bad habits on email. Most emails stink. We try, we have two rules for emails. They must be useful. They must be interesting.
Love it.
And that's incredibly hard to follow, those two rules, by the way. But especially to, a large list where some people hate if you send them even a little email that you think is important for everyone to read. But nonetheless, there's a lot to be learned. By the end of the summer, I hope that we are at the point where we are, for those who subscribe to it, we're sending a monthly changelog email for framework, for open source in general, which includes framework, Forge, Cloud, and Nightwatch. With Forge might come other core services stuff. We call them, Vapor, Nova, Spark, whatever. Envoyer. And by the way, another quick aside. Man, this team of Taylor plus like 8-9 other people, they've shipped so much. It is one of the hardest things of onboarding people, myself included, to the team is just like, hey, we've got like 30 proper nouns as like our first party, like big open source packages. So learn those nouns first. It's like here's an extra 30 teammates whose names you have to know, and you have to know what their jobs are and all that. So that's just like a challenge, and part of why I've told the team, like, we cannot slow down the machine. So as I was saying, by the end of the summer, hopefully we've got a monthly changelog for those like 4 main things. That would be awesome. That would be amazing progress. In addition to these, we're doing 3 tier 1 product launches this year and our biggest LaraCon ever. Like, I'll be satisfied if we make that type of progress. Within a couple of years, I think we'll have a large and engaged email list. Email still does matter, no matter what people say.
Yeah.
Developers like email more than they admit. And we'll have other channels. I got us on Blue Sky even.
Fantastic.
So we're building out the other stuff. But Taylor is fantastic at it, and this whole company is a credit to that. I don't know if I answered your question, but that was kind of
that was great.
Meandering.
I mean, and I think the acknowledgement of Taylor's ability as a marketer, I think, is really valuable, because people talk often about the things that he can do, and that's not usually one of the words that comes up. Like people say, oh, he's a developer, he can build these great APIs, he builds community, whatever. And I'm like, and he has an incredible innate sense of marketing. And I don't think he would call it marketing, because I think at least he wouldn't at the beginning.
His core skill is communicating, which is rare for a technical founder. His ability to write and to speak, both in short and long form, is actually unique among the founders I've worked for.
That makes sense.
And I've worked for some like heavy hitters. Like RouchG might be unprecedented in terms of short form, like social writing. Sid at GitLab, he was really good at like internal docs and kind of vision setting, but not really great at the writing. But Taylor's a very good communicator, and he was able to carry the company's distribution on his back, entirely. And still does to a large degree. And there are some things we've agreed on, right? Like Taylor and I still check every tweet with each other, that's going out from the main account. But, anyways, could talk more about that, of course. That could be a whole hour in and of itself.
Yes, each of these could. Well, I have one last big question for you, and of course, if there's anything else you want to talk about, but you mentioned being a non-technical team member at a technical company, and we do need to put an asterisk on the non-technical, because you're an extremely technical, non-technical person. But that aside, your day-to-day job is not programming, and you're at a programming company, and you have been, sounds like, for the majority of your career, been a non-technical person at a technical company. What is the experience like when you are... Because I can just imagine things like you're asking things from your technical team members. Well, I need you to tell me about this or whatever. Or you're asking them to do things for you. You talked about having, Chris and Leah, building out the thing, building out the marketing sites. Do you ever feel like there's sort of like the stereotype of developers are, these dumb non-technical people, or non-developers are looking at developers being like these freaking, nerds in their parents' basement, who can't communicate? Do you feel like there are cultural barriers that you have to overcome? And I don't want to say specifically about Laravel, because I don't want you to have to feel like you're talking bad about people, but just in general, being a non-technical person as a technical company, are there ways, code switching, technical barrier, communication barriers or whatever, that you have to overcome when you're in that kind of a environment? Yeah,
probably the biggest skill I've gained through the years is knowing how to build a team of non-technical people who can communicate with the technical people.
Okay.
It's part of the interview process that I have now is, figuring out, can these people that we're hiring, can they learn and can they communicate and mirror? And also, are they brave enough to ask about things they don't know about? Like, that's the hardest thing is because, some engineers will make you feel like an idiot.
Yeah.
And some people relish in it.
Yes, I was just going to say that. Some of them love it.
And so far, we don't really have anyone like that at Laravel. I've found, again, to praise the community, like this community, in addition to being incredibly pragmatic, they're pretty kind. Unusually kind, I would say.
Yeah.
Maybe that's because they felt so downtrodden themselves for the last decade.
Could be.
It's one of my theories.
Yeah.
And part of it's because the demographic is on average older and they're not so hot to trot, whatever. But yeah, that's definitely a barrier. And there is some of it's intelligence. Like, you do have to be smart enough, but that's at any startup, any high growth startup. You have to hire people with above average IQ on average. But there's also the other intelligence types. Like, for teams like this to work well, the communication has to be really good. And you've worked with some of the people on my team. They're very good communicators.
They are.
And I think the person you've worked with the most, I'll give her a shout, like Cynthia. I've worked with her at 3 different companies. So, like, there's a reason for that. And I've learned to, like, filter for, okay, people like that. And I don't know, you have to be able to get mutual respect from both the technical and the non-technical people. And it goes with other things too. Like, it's the same for design teams. Like, they have their own language and egos and that type of thing. And everybody has their own egos about different things, and you have to find ways to get that out of the way, I guess. I don't know if that's like a super, we could get into tactics about, how you get into that, but that's the very high level answer, I guess.
In a 40-minute podcast where I'm talking about as many topics as we did, you did a lot there. Again, each of these could be a podcast on their own, but that was really good. And we are at the point where we're supposed to wrap. So before we do that, I just want to see, is there anything, either of the topics we covered that you wish we'd gone to further, or any other topics you really wanted to make sure we covered today? Obviously, I'm going to have to bring you back on later. So there's space for other things, but just in this moment, is there anything else you wanted to make sure we talked about?
I mean, geez, I'm super excited about the Nightwatch launch. We talked about that a bit. I mean, that's been spoken about. There will be plenty of marketing about that.
Yeah.
In the coming week or weeks. The meetups thing I'm super excited about. I don't know if anybody's still listening at this point. I love ideas. I love the, hey, have you guys thought of doing this? Why aren't you doing this? I do weird stuff. I will try almost anything. At Laracon, I'll spill that. I don't think anybody else has really spilled this. Oh, maybe Taylor referenced it on this podcast. We're doing a golf tournament for the sponsors and speakers and a few other like select guests, like a bunch of the people who bought those community bundle tickets, which is a separate big experiment. I like doing weird stuff. We can try it all out, and why not? That's what makes my job fun. And if it makes the people happy, we'll try it. If you have swag ideas, oh man, people who aren't coming to Laracon, they're going to regret it. It's going to be awesome.
So some of this has an idea. How should they tell you? Sorry.
Oh, I'm just saying, like, some of the swag, most of it's free. Some of it we'll have to like sell, because you'll see it's like stupid expensive to produce. Like, I guess it's known that we have these artisan jackets this year.
It is known.
Those were sold as part of this community bundle, and we only sold 55 of those tickets, and then we had to shut it down. We actually sold 5 more than we meant to.
Oops.
But you'll be able to purchase those jackets. They're going to be pricey, but oh man, they look so good.
Can't wait.
Yeah. And that's just dumb stuff to get excited about. That doesn't really help the company in too many ways, but Yeah. What were you
I
going
don't
to
know.
ask?
You
Sorry.
said vibes at the beginning. There's a lot of vibes for people being excited about having something like that, and
I'll just say this. You'll see that jacket, that'll be something that shows your status in the Laravel community the longer you're in it. Like that makes it sound worse than it is. It's something where it will be representative of where you've been and what you are. I don't know. This all sounds just until we can get into the details of it, it can't do it justice. Just forget it. Just come to LaraCon and you'll see.
I hate to be this person, but I'm already at a point where I'm like, take my money. I literally, since I heard the thing, I was like, so how am I paying you guys money to get me one of these? I haven't gotten one yet, so I'm already captive audience. So and I doubt I'm the only one. Okay, well, I am very excited about all the things that you talked about here because there's so many things that are fun and new and creative and interesting. If people want to throw ideas your way, you already told them where to sign up if they're doing the meetup. So if people want to throw other interesting ideas your way, how should they get in touch with you? Just
tweet at me or DM me.
Okay, we'll have his Twitter handle in the show notes. So, well, thank you so much for hanging out today. It was a pleasure talking to you. Each of these topics could have been their own podcast. Got to have you back another time soon. But until then, thanks for hanging out, man.
Yeah, it's an honor to be here. Thank you so much.
Awesome. And to the rest of you, we will see you all next time.